Today, we're diving into a book called Bitten, and it makes a claim that is, well, it's staggering. It suggests that the Lyme disease epidemic, this thing that affects hundreds of thousands of people, didn't just crawl out of the woods. It argues it was the result of a secret Cold War bioweapons program gone horribly wrong. Just let that sink in for a moment. This single sentence from the author Kris Newby really sets the stage. It connects a very personal health crisis that so many people face with this massive hidden history of national security and secret science. Okay, so before we go any further, you're probably thinking, who is making a claim this big? And that's a fair question. This isn't just some wild theory pulled from the internet. The author, Kris Newby, is an award-winning science writer at Stanford. She was also the senior producer on Under Our Skin, a really powerful documentary about Lyme that was a semifinalist for an Oscar. So what we're talking about here is a serious journalistic investigation. And what's so compelling is that this whole story doesn't start in a government archive or some top secret lab. It starts with the author's own terrifying and deeply personal experience. Picture this. It's 2002. Kris Newby and her family are on a sailboat trip. They're having a nice picnic on an island near Martha's Vineyard. You know, it's just this perfect, idyllic scene. The kind of moment right before your whole world gets turned upside down. And right there, on that beach, both Newby and her husband get by ticks. Ticks they never even saw. It's this tiny, seemingly insignificant event that becomes the trigger for years of medical hell and for this whole deep dive investigation. Pretty soon after that trip, they both get incredibly sick. We're talking crushing fatigue, brain fog, terrible muscle pain, the works. But doctor after doctor just dismisses them, and their journey through the medical system ends with this unbelievable diagnosis, that it was a psychosomatic couples thing. Basically, that their very real physical sickness was all in their heads. And here's the thing, their story is just one of so many. That number you see on the screen, that's the CDC's estimate for new Lyme disease cases in the US every single year. Her personal nightmare is part of a massive and still growing national health crisis.
All right, now we get to the moment where this whole thing pivots from a medical mystery into something that feels like a Cold War thriller. And it all revolves around one person, the very scientist who's credited with discovering the bacteria that causes Lyme disease.
So, meet Willy Burgdorfer. This guy was basically living a double life. On the one hand, he was the public hero. He discovered the Lyme bacterium. It's even named after him. He won all these prestigious awards. But there was a whole other side to him, a secret side. Burgdorfer was also a top researcher in America's bioweapons program, an expert in turning insects like ticks and fleas into tiny weapons of war. And here it is, the bombshell. Late in his life, sick with Parkinson's, Burgdorfer is being videotaped. He's asked if the Lyme pathogen had potential for biological warfare, and he basically admits that not only did it have potential, but he implies the outbreak itself was connected to his secret weapons work. Now, a confession like that, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. To really understand what he was talking about, we have to rewind the clock and go back to the paranoia and the high-stakes science of the Cold War. You can just trace his journey deeper and deeper into this world of what they called entomological warfare. I mean, soon after arriving at the main US lab for this stuff, he's involved in field tests. He's part of things like Operation Big Itch, which literally tested dropping hundreds of thousands of fleas out of airplanes. He even consulted on plans to use insects to attack Cuban workers. This was real. And this wasn't some fringe idea. This comes from an actual US Army Chemical Corps document, laying out the strategy. Why use ticks? Well, they inject an agent right into you, so a gas mask does nothing. They stay alive for a long time, and they make the entire environment a constant threat. The logic is as clear as it is absolutely chilling. And you have to understand, the goal wasn't always just to kill. A huge focus of the program was on creating what they called incapacitating agents. The idea was to cripple an enemy not by blowing up their cities, but by making huge numbers of their people sick with weird, hard-to-diagnose illnesses, to cause chaos and collapse from the inside. Okay, so this brings us back to Kris Newby's investigation in the present day. She's got Burgdorfer's confession, right? So she sets out to find the paper trail, the hard proof that connects his bioweapons work to the Lyme outbreak. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, A deathbed confession is one thing, but where are the lab notes, the reports? Where is the smoking gun that proves his story? So when Newby goes to the National Archives to look through Burgdorfer's official papers, she finds a giant hole. The most important files, the lab notebooks, the photos from his famous 1981 discovery of the Lyme bacteria, they were just gone, vanished. But something was left behind. In the exact spot where those missing Lyme files should have been, she finds a folder of film negatives, and the label on it just says, "The Swiss Agent." The film shows this strange microbe they found in ticks from the Lyme, Connecticut area, a microbe that Burgdorfer never ever mentioned in any of his official publications. So you've got the confession, the secret bioweapons work, the missing files, this mysterious clue. How does it all fit together? Well, this is what leads us to the book's staggering conclusion. Newby calls it an American Chernobyl. And that metaphor is just so powerful. It paints a picture of a silent, invisible, biological disaster, one with consequences that could last for generations, all hidden from the public. So here's how the book puts all the pieces together. The central argument goes like this. 1. The U.S. bioweapons program creates a new or modified bug. 2. This bug is accidentally released sometime in the late 60s, near the very area where Lyme disease first exploded. 3. Years later, Willy Burgdorfer is asked to figure out what's causing this mysterious illness, and he recognizes a ghost from his past, his own work. And 4. The cover-up. He chooses to reveal only part of the truth, leading to decades of confusion, misdiagnosis, and suffering. We've just walked through the core argument of the book Bitten. It's a deeply researched investigation packed with documents and interviews. Our goal here was to lay out the evidence it presents, and now we'll leave it to you to weigh it and think about what it all might mean. Because ultimately, the story of Lyme disease, as told in this book, forces us to ask a much bigger and honestly a much more disturbing question. It challenges everything we think we know about where new diseases come from, and it leaves us with this one final lingering thought. If this really happened, what else don't we know?